Hello, and welcome to another Cornish Gamers Game Spotlight episode with me, Vesna. This week's yet another stupid death is the roguelike Dungeons of Dredmor by Gaslamp Games. Dungeons of Dredmor is very much the epitome of the traditional roguelike, well, except for its lovely tile-based graphics, but more on that in a minute. First you create a character by choosing their skill specializations, name and gender, then you start the game, Captain Obvious to the rescue. You'll be placed in a randomly generated dungeon and must complete it by trudging through hordes of monsters and traps to reach and then defeat the titular Dredmor. By being turn-based, you're encouraged to carefully plan your every action. Seems like a fairly ordinary 2D dungeon crawling RPG so far, doesn't it? Until you bring in the permadeath mechanic, that is, and yes, it is what it sounds like. Death is permanent and your save will be wiped. Dear viewers, I've been talking about the roguelike genre and you've probably been wondering why it's called roguelike, considering that it's an unusual name for a genre. Well, as the name suggests, the first in the roguelike genre was Rogue, which was released back in 1980 and was incredibly difficult because of the permadeath mechanic. Since then, any dungeon crawling RPG with the permadeath mechanic has been labelled as being like Rogue, or rather roguelike. Thus, a genre was born. Dungeons of Dredmor plays very nicely, complete with pop culture references wherever you look, though I'm pretty sure that the expensive horse armour isn't a reference. The completely random nature of the dungeons means that one has to employ careful strategy to avoid yet another stupid death, and trust me, you'll be getting a lot of those, especially if you find a monster zoo. A more traditional roguelike would employ ASCII graphics, which is essentially the technique of using letters, numbers and symbols to represent characters, items and the environment. Evidently, Dungeons of Dredmor does not do this, and it works in its favour by making the game considerably more accessible to those who would otherwise be put off by an ASCII graphical style. Inventory management in Dungeons of Dredmor is not the most streamlined, with the fact that you need to drag every item to and from any window like the inventory. This does render the entire interface a bit awkward to use and slows the pace in the game. However, this will only really affect you if you are not a fan of more sedately paced games in the first place. Going to Steam Workshop, one will find a Dungeons of Dredmor section. Clearly, Dungeons of Dredmor is moddable, though judging by the number of entries it's not particularly easy. Unfortunately, this is one of those really rare games that I've not yet attempted to mod, so I cannot personally say how easy or intuitive it is. However, I have had a quick glance and it seems easy enough through simple editing of XML files. This may also mean that I'll have to eat my own words that I uttered a couple of sentences back. As of the 2nd of October 2012, Dungeons of Dredmor has 3 pieces of DLC: Realm of the Diggle Gods, You Have to Name the Expansion Pack, and Conquest of the Wizardlands. The first and third packs you'll have to pay for as usual, while the second is free, because Gaslamp Games collaborated with modders to the game to celebrate the Steam Workshop integration. This has also meant that You Have to Name the Expansion Pack is the smallest of 3, but free. You mustn't forget that. I would most definitely recommend Dungeons of Dredmor to those of you who enjoy roguelikes. This game is also a great choice to be introduced to the roguelike genre, or more generally, the 2D dungeon crawling genre, especially if you turn off the permadeath mechanic before you start a game. So thanks for watching, please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or suggestions, please email us at cornishgamers@gmail.com or simply make a comment below. Until next time, I want you to post in the comments how many references you saw in this video. Let's see how many we can get.